Let me hit record. All right, John, go for it.
Uh, Eric, what are your thoughts on this one?
I was really pleased with the outcome, the performance, the components of the performance, and the level of effort and the play because I think lost lost on people at home, but the pitch was a new day. It was them. They say weathering a storm is probably too big a stretch, but we find the first 10 or 15 minutes difficult with the ball, and I think it was obviously reflected in the balance of the game. But I think once we found our feet and found the ways of pushing the buttons that we normally push to make life uncomfortable for the opposition, I think we did a really good job. And again, it's a tough place to come. The atmosphere is really good. A really loud supporter section that's desperately trying to suck the ball into the net, and you've got 4 or 5 forwards or a set of forwards as the game goes on that they rotate through that are really high level for this league. So I think we dealt with all that really well, and there are a lot of ingredients to that performance that we were missing last week, and I was really pleased we were able to bounce back and recapture very quickly what team we are, and particularly in these situations.
We saw the return of sort of the 5-2-3 that we saw last year. What was your thinking behind that?
Yeah, we wanted. I always felt that over the course of the season we would revert back to that at some point, and I felt like there was inevitability that playing with both Tanny and Kelvin in the front two would become sort of stale, for want of a better word, at some point, and we would have to find ways to be adaptable and flexible in terms of how we use the shape. And I think once we got a good foothold in the game, and were able to have some spells on the ball and use the ball as we would normally with a high rhythm, attacking quickly, but trying to play in a way where we connect enough passes to get our creative players on the ball in good positions. I think we did that really well with both Joaquin and Rob underneath Tanny. So I'm glad that we've shown that the ability to flick between the two systems, and certainly it will give us a sense of confidence and a sense of I suppose more completeness as a team as the year goes on.
Was this sort of a textbook example of how a team can control a game without having the ball?
Yeah, I think we did a really good job in that sense, and without a shadow of a doubt, the flurry of chances going their way toward the end of the game it's a product of the situation and the desperation to score and the number of forwards that they throw onto the pitch and the directness that they play with. But I think with all that considered, I think we did a relatively good job of weathering that and restricted them to, I would say, half chances as opposed to really clean cut chances. And I give credit to everyone in that sense. It's the Dane was great, backline was great, but we were back to a real collective, cohesive 1 to 11 effort, which is what was lacking against Vancouver. And I was pleased that we were able to put that to bed in the way that we did tonight.
What was your reasoning behind Joseph Rosales starting the game on the bench?
I think the whole situation that surrounds a player and not just a Joe in a situation like that, given the sort of thoroughness of the league process, is really draining for a player. And I think Joe's he's had a lot of extra bits to his week this week that he wouldn't normally have. So I felt like it was probably most sensible for me to make a tough decision to relieve a little bit of pressure from him and not add the weight of a really difficult away game from the start. And I think that was justified, and I'm sure Joe would echo that. And I felt like Anthony came in and did a really good job. And obviously he does add on attacking set plays. He's a fullback who is sort of shading 6 foot and desperate to score and attacks the box with real conviction. And we were hoping he would give us that edge, and he certainly did.
Speaking of mechanics goal, do you count sort of those second phases as set piece goals when you're keeping tallies?
100%. So that is a really big part of what we do in those moments, and we play for those moments really strategically. And we've been really effective over the course of this year. And I don't know whether we probably get enough credit for the number of goals and chances we create on set plays, because I would even say that the first goal comes partly as a consequence of some components of a deep free kick and a set play moment that we talk about a lot. So again, I was really pleased that we were able to put the opposition under that level of pressure and get back to being that team that can squeeze the most out of every moment of every game.
Do you think Joaquin Pereira is going to try to claim that first goal too?
I think he would do his. I think he would have done had he not scored at the end. Maybe he'd be less desperate to now he's finished in the way he did. But again, he was great. He did really really well, and I'm pleased that he's able to add a statistic to the performance because I know for those guys that's really important.
What were your thoughts on how Carlos Harvey played in that midfield role?
Yeah, he did great, and overall, I would say I think he had a tricky first 10 or 15 minutes on the ball, as did a few of the guys. But I would sort of stress that, yeah, it was partly our doing, and I'm not laying all blame on the pitch, but it was a really difficult pitch, very very different to anything I've encountered since I've been here. Very short grass, very quick, lots of bobbles, lots of gaps in between blocks of grass. So I felt like he was probably the victim of that a little bit. But once he settled in, I think he was very good out of possession. And once he got to grips with the pace of the game, he was fairly effective with the ball as well. And it's not easy going from playing in the back line to playing in midfield, not least from a physical perspective. I think by the time he came off, he was on course to do about 3.5, 4K more than he would normally do when he's playing at the back. And I was very conscious of that in making that decision on an hour to bring him off. So I think, given that that's his first step back into the middle for a while, I think he did a really good job.
Do you feel like this performance was good enough that it gives you a little bit of pause and you start thinking, maybe we should play with one forward more often?
No, I think it almost sort of reaffirms what I thought about the group, in that we would for sure not play 30 odd games with Tanny and Kelvin as a front two. That it just, number one, it wasn't sustainable. It doesn't give us enough adaptability or ability to be pragmatic. And I felt like today it just almost justified that. It was something that we did very well last year. We can defend very well in that shape, and once we find our rhythm, we can attack as we want to attack. I think I sort of stressed that we're just not going to be a team that is going to be successful on the basis of phases of possession that last 30 passes. You can see in the characteristics of almost all the players that we have at the top of the pitch, they want to attack quickly. They're really direct, and I think we can continue to feed that in the way that we play today. But we're taking out a physical, athletic forward that wants to attack space in behind, and in theory, however we do it, replacing them with more of a sort of technician in the middle of the pitch. And I think that was reflected in lots of moments of the game today.
Obviously, it was a limited appearance, but what did you think of Julian Gressel's first minutes in a Loons jersey?
Yeah, I think he obviously gave us, of course, what we wanted him to give us, in the sense that as Julian comes on, we were able to sort of still have a nice balance on that side between a player that can defend and give us a real quality on the ball and a real attacking threat, and also move Bongi higher up the pitch. And I think Bongi did a really good job further forward, and he obviously plays with more freedom. He's closer to the front. He's a really unpredictable player, and I think in from the middle of the pitch he can be even more unpredictable, for good and for bad sometimes. But Julian is a really steady presence, and I think in a situation where he's coming on to close a game out, he's going to be able to do it well. He's a really responsive, coachable. He's going to be able to carry out an instruction well. He's a good size. He's good at defending set plays. So I think it was really nice to look to the bench and be able to use him in that way.
I think that's good for me. Thank you very much.
Great. Cheers, John. Bye, guys.